Going to bring in right now NPR contributor John Ridley, along with national radio talk show host and former Education Secretary Bill Bennett. We've also got from Cleveland Bashir Jones joining us, who's the host of Radio 1's Bashir Jones and Company morning show there. Welcome to everybody. John, let me start with you. How many times do we hear this described as a teachable moment? So did we learn anything?
You know, I would hope that these two gentlemen, Professor Gates and Sergeant Crowley, probably learned something about interacting with each other. I mean, these are two guys who should have known better. I think one reacted poorly, the other overreacted. But where we are now with this beer summit, and I know the president tried to lower expectations, this is beyond teachable because this is no longer a situation that I think most people who would find themselves in a similar situation could even relate to. So, no, I hope these two gentlemen learned something, but unfortunately I think this one is now off the teachable charts.
So you think the president mishandled it?
I don't think the president mishandled it. I think it was a good idea. I think he got dragged into something that was beyond the White House. I think it was good to say, hey, let's sit down. But again, as you said at the top of this, Campbell, this has sort of become a circus for the chattering classes to talk about more than a quiet moment for people to reflect.
Bill, you were pretty critical of the president going into this. Can you concede anything positive came out of today?
I don't think so. Who's defending the free world, by the way, with the president and vice president sitting there? I guess it's the Marines, the FBI, and the police, so we're okay. Look, he was stupid and describing their behavior as acting stupidly. Now he had to cover this up. He had to make this big deal, bring them into the White House so that things would...
Bill? I think I lost Bill's satellite there. All right, we're going to go back to him if we can get it back up and let him finish making his point. But let me bring Bashir into this because, Bashir, I know your listeners also somewhat critical of the president, but from a very different point of view. Explain.
Yes, definitely. You know, I think the issue is that when it comes to African-American issues, President Barack Obama kind of steps back on. And I think that if it was wrong, it was wrong, and he should speak out against it. And a lot of my listeners were upset. But also, I think that we need to understand that it's bigger than just Dr. Henry Louis Gates and Officer Crowley's personal relationship. It's about the bigger issue, which is that this type of situation happens all of the time. And the very fact that President Barack Obama had to step back showed that we're not being truthful about the problems. And if we're looking for the solutions, we have to be truthful that a problem exists, and we're not ready to be truthful.
John, are expectations of President Obama when it comes to race, I mean, even fair? I mean, let's be honest, this would be a very different conversation if we were talking about a white president leading this conversation or this discussion.
Well, I don't think a white president, I don't think George Bush would have been asked about what he thought about the situation. I don't think a white president would have been asked about Michael Jackson. So I think he's getting dragged into discussions, to Bill's point, Bill Bennett's point, dragged into discussions that, quite frankly, are below the White House to begin with. I think that people really do believe that because President Obama is president, he can solve all these issues, black or white. He can get all of us as Americans to a place where we're beyond racism. He can lift up all black people so that people who are bigots to begin with aren't going to see us as a monolithic group, but see us as a diverse group. He can't solve all the problems. He certainly has enough trouble solving healthcare, let alone racism.
But what he does need to do is he needs to address all problems. He doesn't need to overlook the problem that exists in the African-American community. He has to address it. And the very fact that he had to say that it was unfortunate that he said it, it shows us that we're not where we need to be.
Well, all right, let me go back to Bill Bennett because we did get a satellite back and let him finish making his point. Bill, you with us?
Yeah, sure. Look, he wasn't dragged into this. He dragged himself kicking and screaming into this by that stupid mistake. And so then we have to go through this whole series of days and now all these rituals and symbols. Well, it was a huge mistake because they didn't act stupidly. Sergeant Crowley and the police did not act stupidly.
How didn't they act stupidly?
Bill, I got to jump in.
Guys, hold on a second. Hold everybody. Hold it. Bill, I want Bill to at least make his point, and then we can discuss your take on his point. But let him finish his perspective here. Go ahead.
He was bringing these folks to the White House in hopes of a kind of Bill Clinton, you know, with his arms around Arafat and Rabin, and saying everything is fine now. He stepped into it. It was his mistake. He was hoping these guys would pull him out of it. They haven't pulled him out of it because Crowley can't be budged. He's backed up by the police department.
It's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. He got cut off, didn't he?
So,
oh, okay.
All right, guys, my apologies, but I've lost your audio here on my end. So many apologies for our technical difficulties, but I'm just going to thank John, Bashir, and Bill Bennett for being with us. Guys, I'm sorry about that. We'll try it again another night.